Hey guys, ready to design some 3D sets in Moho? Because that's what this course is all about. This Moho Pro course was originally published on Udemy and is now being placed on YouTube for archival purposes. Each week, I will be posting a chapter from the course right here. If you still want access to my original work files or the entire course at once, you can check that out in the description below.
For this video, I'm actually on my iPad Pro, and I'm going to go inside of Procreate and show you my process of creating textures for 3D Moho objects. There are many ways you can go about doing this, but I find that using this app or an app with a symmetry feature can help when designing your textures because it will create a seamless loop if needed. So I'm on my iPad, and I'm just going to go into my drawing apps and then choose Procreate from the list. So here, if you've never used Procreate, and if you have an iPad Pro, I definitely recommend you pick it up. It is an awesome application. You can see I have my projects here inside of Procreate. And if I tap on tutorials, I can go in there and you can see the sketches I made, but also the textures I made as well. So for instance, I have a texture for the sky, the lava, the trees, the rocks, and a couple other things. So if we come in here, you can see here is the lava texture. And this works because it mirrors itself all the way around. So you can see that on the top and bottoms of this, they are darker. And so then if we were to stack this one on top of this one, it would look like a mirror and it would just continue to seamlessly wrap around. And so that's why we're going to create the textures this way as opposed to just painting one image. Now to do something like this, it's quite simple. I will come back out here to the gallery really quick so I can make a new document in Procreate. So I'll tap on the plus button and I'll go with the square canvas. That way all sides are equal. So we tap on that and go inside. Now, the next thing I want to do is enable my symmetry guides so I can do that mirroring effect. And this is easy in Procreate. Just go to your Actions panel, and under Canvas, you'll find Drawing Guide. Tap on Drawing Guide to enable that, and then you'll want to tap Edit Drawing Guide to go inside. Now here, we have a 2D grid, isometric, perspective, and then on the end at the top, you have symmetry. So once you tap on symmetry, which is the option you want, come down on the bottom and you'll see that we have 4 buttons. The third one in is called Quadrant. Tap on that and we're now splitting the screen into 4 sections. If you're having a hard time seeing the grid, you can always come up to the top and adjust the color of the grid by using your slider right here. So I'll make it dark blue so we have an easier time seeing it. And once you're done, you can tap Done on the screen. Now, let's go over here to our layers really quick. I just want to note that layer 1 is marked as assisted, which means that it will take advantage of the symmetry guides as we move along. Now, if you make a new layer, you'll have to turn assistance on for it if you wanted to adhere to the guides, just so you know. And I'm not going to do anything elaborate here, but I'll just pick a color to show you how this works, and a brush. So we can just come in and use carbon stick that works for the charcoals, and we should be set. So again, with the symmetry guide, as you start to paint in, you can see that when I place my brush anywhere and I start to just paint in, it's mirroring it on all 4 sides. And that's what's great about this. So you can come in and you can design your texture any way you see fit, and you don't have to worry about the texture not looping correctly if you have a big object and you have that texture going all the way around and it's tiling. So this is a great way to cover yourself with that. And with Procreate, I could do an entire course on Procreate because it's so involved and really, really a good program. But you can come in here and do all sorts of different things with your color, blend modes, and your opacity. And really, you have a lot of control Not to mention, you could take this over to Photoshop and make any final corrections you wanted to before you bring it over to Moho. But ultimately, once you finish that up, you'll just want to come over here to your Actions panel, and then you can go to Share, and then you can tap on PNG, and you can share this file then with either your computer. You can see my MacBook pops up through AirDrop, or we can save to the Photos app. We can save to our files, whatever you want to do, so that way you can get this file over to your computer. But just so you know, for this course, we will be using these textures, and they will be provided for you. So you can see we have all sorts of different ones, and you'll find them inside of the exercise files. So that way you can follow along with the next video. After you design your textures, especially if you're doing it in Procreate, like I did in the previous video, once you import that file over, or the files, you'll see in my file browser here, I have one called Untitled Artwork, and that was brought directly over from Procreate. There's one problem with this, and it's because of how big I made the file, but also just the details involved and the compression. You'll see that it's close to 6 meg. Now again, that's not the end of the world, but Moho kind of has a hard time dealing with really big textures. And so it's within your best interest, once you import these files in, that you go through the process, such as going into Photoshop and starting to compress these files. So you can see right here, I just brought in a few different files, and all I did was just go through the process, for instance with this one, of going up to File, Export, and then Export As. From here, you can quickly go in and adjust the settings. For instance, if you have no transparencies going on, you can make it a JPEG, and that will already knock the file size down considerably. But also keep in mind that we are using a pretty big texture for this, and so we can come in here. It was currently set to 100, but you could drop the scale of that down to 50%, and that will also help with the file size. So by going in and adjusting not only the format, but the quality and the file size, you can then adjust just how much data is compressed within this. And I recommend, once you do this, you save these so that they are under a meg each. And it might not be possible for all of them, but I was able to do it, so I think you should be able to as well. The rock is a little bit bigger, but that should work for our purposes. So again, in your exercise files, you will find these compressed files, so you don't have to worry about doing this yourself. But just know, when it comes time to design your own sets on your own, you might want to consider compressing your textures before you import them into Moho. For this video, we are working off of 09 adding textures.moho. Feel free to open this up. We are back inside of Moho, and we're going to begin the process now of adding textures. The first thing you'll want to do is just figure out where you want to start. And there's really no right or wrong, although I will caution this. The reason why we haven't made more trees yet is because the process of texturing is a little bit cumbersome, or at least it can be if you have multiple objects on screen and you need to apply them. So if we were to duplicate this regular brown tree, and we have 5 of them, and we modify it and we put it all around the landscape, when it comes time to texture, you're going to have to go to each tree and color each branch. So here, it's just easier to texture the first one and then duplicate and modify afterwards. We'll start with the sky. You can use the layer selector to select a layer if it's easier for you to do that. And once the sky is selected, come over here to the Select Shape tool and then click once on the sky. Now, you'll want to look at the Style panel, and under Effect, we have Image Texture. So just go down and select that option. And here we have the ability to click Select Texture. When we do this, it will browse to the computer, and you'll have to locate the file. And in this case, we're inside Exercise Files, and we want to grab sky and then choose open. So now you can see the sky is in place. We want it to tile. That basically means repeat. If we don't, we might run into some issues. So we'll just leave it as repeating and then click OK. And that's it. The sky now has a texture. You can zoom out and you can see it looks good because of the way we designed that texture of the mirroring effect we use with the symmetry guide. Everything loops seamlessly, so we don't have any weird borders going with that texture. So now it's just a simple matter of going through and picking out what you want to add next. So we can keep going in the background and just moving forward. We'll click on the sun and then use the select shape tool to come in, grab that image texture, browse, and we'll locate sun.png and then choose open. Now this time, because it's a PNG file and because of the way we designed this, I'm going to enable through transparency. That way, all that transparency will show up with the texture and we'll be able to see through it and see the sky a little bit. So once you have that, you can click OK, and that's looking pretty good. Also note, you can adjust the texture the way it's laid out by grabbing these handles and moving them around. And I think I'll leave this as it is for right now. And I can't seem to actually grab this one at the moment for some reason, but we're okay with that. I just wanted to point out that typically, not sure why, but you can grab and move these around. So now, continuing on, we're going to go to the mountains, and we'll click once on the mountains with the select shape tool, and then we will apply the texture. Once again, going into the exercise files, locating the mountain texture, and then choosing open. Making sure it's set to tile, we can click OK. Then there's the hills. We'll have to do these a little bit differently because they are each being selected as individual shapes, as you can see. So we'll just select one of them and grab that texture. Come in here, apply hills, and then click OK. Now we're just going to come over here to that next shape, grab the eyedropper. You can use L on the keyboard if you wish. Just like that. And then we can just keep going here. And you can go in and select the texture if you wish, but this should allow us just to come in and quickly apply it so that we don't have to worry. So there you go. You now have the hills in place. Up next, we can move to the rocks. So we'll just kind of grab each rock here. Here's rock 1. We can come in and add that image. Just locate rock.jpg, and we can add it in. And we can just keep going here, locating all the rocks that I want here. So there's that one. I think I have one rock here that's actually hidden and below everything else. And I think that's rock 4. So I think that's where I'm getting confused. But here are the rocks that are visible. I'm actually going to go down to rock 4 for right now and just remove it since we're not using it at the moment. And if I need another one, I can always duplicate another one. We're now going to focus on the tree. So we'll click on the group layer for the tree, make sure we're inside. And we're going to come in and start selecting each individual part of the tree and applying our texture. So once again, just come in. There you go. And you can apply it. Now, I'm going to be honest, I did this a little bit backwards while doing this tutorial. Typically, I texture things while they're 2D before we jump to this part, because as you're going to see, as I start to try to play around with things, this main part's okay, but you have to click on a very specific part of the 3D object in order to texture it. So it's going to be a little bit challenging, but we should be able to get it to work. See, I had to kind of click a couple areas to get that piece selected, and I can just come in with my eyedropper and get that. And again, you might have to, there you go, click on that part, come in, fill it in. And it just takes a little bit longer. And you might also find rotating it can also help. But again, if I were to do this in a way that's a little bit more efficient, I would just make sure I texture it while everything is 2D. So that way you don't run into this issue where you're having to try to click on stuff and try to get it to work, because sometimes it's just a little bit finicky. And we also have to keep in mind that Moho isn't really made for 3D like I'm doing. It's possible to do it, but really it's more for 2D animations. So what we're doing here is kind of different compared to what you would use typically with the software. But anyway, as you can see, we almost have these figured out. So I'm just going to finish up texturing those last 3 branches. And let me just add the lava while we're looking at this. So the last one would be the lava. You just come in and we can add that texture, select it, choose lava, and then click OK. So now we have something that looks like this. So between the videos, I'm just going to go in and rotate this a bit and color in those last 2 branches with the texture. So for now, we'll pause, and up next, we'll move on to filling out the rest of the scenery. For this video, we are working off of 10addingtrees.moho, and we are back inside of Moho. Between this video and the last, all I did was just take my time and zoom in and make sure that all the branches have that texture applied to it. So there you go. Everything has its textures. So now we're going to move forward and continue building up the scene. To do this, we're just going to duplicate this tree and modify it and place it elsewhere within the environment. And we'll do that a few more times just to add some variety. We'll come in here and we can duplicate that tree group layer. And we'll have tree 2. Then we can take it and move it out like this. So now what we can do first is come in and make sure that anchor point is situated. Since it's 3D, it's kind of hard to get it situated sometimes exactly where we want it. But now all I'm going to do is just rotate this a bit so it's a little bit different like that. And then I'm just going to move it over and sort of place it in the lava. Now, I might make it a little bit lower, just again to add that variety. The other thing I'm going to do is come in and modify this big branch because it is quite obvious, and we have that big branch right here. So I just want to make it look a little bit more varied, that this is something a little bit different. So I can just come in really quick and make that modification. So something like that should be fine. And again, hopefully the audience isn't paying too much attention to the background, but they're more focused on the action going on in the foreground. Now, you could also go in with this tree if you really want more variety, and you could just modify all the points for the branches and for the main structure of the tree, whatever you want to do. Again, it just depends on how meticulous you want to be with this. Again, if we go in and just do some rotation and modification, it's probably going to be enough, but there's nothing wrong with playing around with these things to make it look more varied. So there you go. We're now going to do this again. In fact, we'll probably do it like 3 more times at least, just to have something in the background. So we'll duplicate tree 1 yet again, and taking the transform layer tool, we're just going to push it this time further into the distance until it reaches the hills. So something like that. And then we can move it over, perhaps something like that. Make sure it's actually visible. And then come over. Now, I can try to set that origin point again, but since it's 3D, it's kind of hard to tell sometimes. But we're just going to come in here and do a quick rotation. And we're just going to bring the tree then back and then over again, just to give it a different look. And I can put it about even with the original tree. In fact, just to add a little bit more variety, why don't we come in here and reduce the size of the X a little bit and maybe increase the Y so it looks something like that. And we can just stick it over like so. Then we'll do this yet again. Come back up here to the original tree, and we're going to duplicate it. And just coming over. This time we'll place one that's closer to the foreground. And we'll try to modify that anchor point again. Can be kind of tricky to do so in 3D. But I'll come in about like that. We'll try it. And then bring it back. And then try to move it down. I want to place it so, again, it's in front of the screen a little bit. So we have some branches just kind of sticking out like that. Again, to show that there is depth going on within the scene and we have other things in shot. So there you go. You have that. And we might modify it. I'm not quite sure because we will have our character jumping on this rock in the foreground, and we don't want the tree to completely block that. And so we can play around with this and move it exactly where we feel we need to move it. But that is situated, and let's go ahead and just do one more here. Tree number 5. And we can come in and let's modify this one a little bit. Actually, I'll just use the X here. Sometimes it's easier when resizing your 3D objects just to use the numbers on the top with your scaling. At least that's what I have found. And we're just going to do a couple little things with that one. And actually, it might be a little bit too squished in, so we might just bring it back a little bit like that. Maybe just have it stick up a little bit. And you know, I'm going to even duplicate that one that we just made and bring it out a little bit more. Maybe just kind of have it sticking out like this a little bit. And I guess I'm a little bit tree happy here, but we'll do yet another one. And we'll put that one more back here. So let's kind of go like this. Get it back into the distance. Let's try to get back a little bit more past that rock. There we go. Something like that. And again, it's off screen, so we shouldn't have to do too much with modifying it. But that should work for our purposes. Now, the other thing I might do really quick is add one more rock. You can see we have one rock here, there, and then one out in the distance. Again, the goal is to have the character jump in and go on this rock, and then a foreground rock. So let's click on one of these rocks. This one will work, and duplicate it. And we're just going to bring the Z property up so that it's closer to the screen. Bring it in a little bit like so. And I can also work with the tree I have in the foreground right here that's close to this rock. But the other thing I'll do is also come in and modify the way this is looking, because I want it to look different. So anything I can do here just to kind of add some differentiation to it. And we don't want it to look abnormal, but maybe something like that, just to have a little bit of a ledge. And that can kind of help, again, with the shape and everything else. So now, looking at this, I might go in and try to find that other tree I just added, that one right there. That's kind of meshing. And it's actually not too bad. We could have it sort of on the rock if we wanted to. But maybe what I'll do is just push it a little bit back so it's behind the rock. Like this and kind of like that. So we just add a little bit more of something to that. Now, I'll do just one more rock. This will be really quick. We will duplicate the original and then bring it up again. And then this time I'm going to shrink things up just a little bit like that. And then I'm just going to bring it down so it's barely sticking up. And then maybe even bring it back a little bit like that. So you just have something sticking out, but it's not enough to jump on. It's just to add a little bit more variety to the shot. So there you go. You now have more trees and rocks within the shot, making it more complete. We'll pause here, and up next, we'll start animating the lava and bubbles.